Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we will learn about pollination. Now what is pollination? It is the transfer of pollens from male anther of one flower to the stigma of another female flower. As you can see in this picture, there are two flowers and this insect has come and sit on this flower, and when it sits, then what happens is this: the pollen grains stuck to the legs of this insect. Now what are pollen grains? As you can see in this diagram, there are several bilobed yellow structures. These are known as the anthers, and these anthers are part of male flower, and within these anthers the pollen grains are present. So these pollens get stuck to the legs of the insect, and when this insect sits on another flower, then what happens? These pollens fall on the stigma, which is a part of the female flower, falls, and then the fertilization takes place. So this process is known as the pollination. Now here we can see the structure of anther or the stigma very clearly. First of all, I am going to discuss about the anthers. As you can see, this is a bilobed structure. There are two lobes, this one and this one, and there is a filament like structure which is elongated. This bilobed structure is known as the anther, and this stalk is known as the filament or stalk. And if you cross section it or if you cut it, then you will find that there are four chambers: first one, second one, third one, and the fourth one. And within these there are pollen sacs, and within these there are pollen grains. And this is the diagram which is showing the female reproductive system of flowering plant. There is stigma at the top, then there is a filament like structure which is known as the style, and at the base of which there is ovary, and at the center we are finding ovule with embryo sac. This is a very simple diagram which is showing the anther, and here is the detail of female reproductive system of a flowering plant. This head is known as the stigma, where the pollen grains fall. Then what happens? These pollen grains pass through the style, this filament. Then it reaches the ovules which are present within the ovary. And as a result, what happens? The fertilization takes place and the new embryo is formed. Now, what are the different types of pollination? Pollination is of two types. One is called self-pollination, another one is called cross-pollination. In self-pollination, pollen grains are transferred from the anther to the stigma of the same flower. As you can see in this diagram, the pollen grains are coming out from the anthers and falling on the stigma of the same flower. So if it happens, then we call it self-pollination. On the other hand, let us talk about cross-pollination. In cross-pollination, pollen grains are transferred from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower of the same kind. Here you can see the anthers are producing pollen grains, and they are getting transferred from this flower to the stigma of this flower. So if this happens, then we call it cross-pollination. Now let us find out the differences between self-pollination and cross-pollination. Now let us find out the differences between self-pollination and cross-pollination. In self-pollination, the pollen grains from a flower are carried to the stigma of the same flower. But in case of cross-pollination, the pollen grains from a flower are carried to the stigma of the different flower on other plant. In case of self-pollination, flowers do not need any pollinating agent. On the other hand, in case of cross-pollination, such flowers need pollinating agents. Cell pollination is less preferable from the genetic point of view since there is no mixing of genes. Genes are the blueprints of life. On contrary, the cross-pollination is more preferable from the genetic point of view since new characters can be produced. Now I am giving you some examples of cell-pollinating flowers and cross-pollinating flowers. Orchids, peas, sunflowers and tridacts are the examples of cell-pollinating flowers. Apples, plums, pears, raspberries, blackberries, blackcurrants and strawberries are examples of cross-pollinating flowers. Now let us talk about the agents of pollinations. That means the medium which helps in pollination. It may be wind, it may be water, it may be insects, it may be birds, or it may be snails, etc. So these are the substances which carry pollens from one flower to another flower. So as a result, they are acting as agents. Now what is a nectar? Nectar is a sugar-rich liquid produced by plants. It attracts pollinating animals. As you can see in this picture, this drop of jelly-like substance is known as the nectar, which is sweet or the sugary in taste. Now, why pollination takes place? Pollination helps in reproduction of flowering plants and it also brings new varieties through cross-pollination. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have enjoyed this video, then do like and comment in the comment section box. Thanks for watching this video.